Rain lashed the cracked pavement of the narrow alley, turning the dirt into cold puddles that splashed beneath trembling feet. Mia stumbled backward, her thin hands clutching her swollen belly as another strike sent her crashing into a pile of broken crates. "You worthless woman," Rick's voice thundered above the storm. His breath reeked of alcohol, his eyes burning with fury. "Can't even cook right, you're good for nothing." He raised his boot again, and she whimpered, curling herself protectively around her unborn child. "Don't kick me again, please," she begged, her voice hoarse and soaked in fear. The words barely escaped her lips before a sharp kick sent pain shooting up her side. A few people walked past the mouth of the alley, their umbrellas shielding them from the rain, and from the cruelty unfolding just a few feet away. No one wanted to get involved. No one ever did. Rick spat on the ground and turned away, grumbling, "Pathetic. I should have never married you." His steps echoed on the wet concrete, but he paused when he noticed someone standing at the other end of the alley, a tall man, motionless beneath the rain. His dark trench coat clung to his broad shoulders, and his sharp eyes reflected quiet anger. "Is there a problem?" the stranger asked calmly, his voice deep and measured. Rick smirked, sizing him up. "None of your business, pal. This is my wife. She just needs to learn her place." The man's expression didn't change, but something in his gaze made Rick's confidence falter. He took a slow step forward. "Her place," he said softly. "From where I'm standing, her place is safe from you." Rick scoffed. "Oh yeah, you gonna teach me a lesson?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he knelt beside Mia, gently draping his coat over her shoulders. She looked up through wet strands of hair, her lip bleeding, her eyes filled with confusion and fear. "You're safe now," he said quietly. His tone carried authority, not the kind that shouted, but the kind that couldn't be challenged. Rick barked out a laugh. "Look, hero, I don't know who you think you are, but..." Before he could finish, the man stood, and the quiet power in his stance made Rick freeze. "Walk away," the stranger said. "Now, before you regret it." Something in his eyes, calm, deadly, certain, made Rick's throat tighten. Muttering curses, he backed off and disappeared into the rain. The man turned back to Mia, helping her to her feet. She was shaking violently. Who are you?" she whispered. "Just someone who doesn't like seeing monsters win," he replied softly, guiding her toward the street. He hailed a taxi, helped her inside, and gave the driver an address she didn't recognize. Hospital. Now, as the car pulled away, Mia glanced back through the window. The man stood in the rain, watching until she disappeared. He slipped his hand into his pocket, revealing a sleek black card with a gold crest, the insignia of a billion-dollar company. Daniel Graves, CEO. But tonight, he was no billionaire. Just a stranger who refused to look away. When Mia awoke, the first thing she noticed was silence. No shouting, no slamming doors, no sound of breaking glass, only the soft hum of machines and the faint scent of antiseptic. She blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting to the warm light of a private hospital room. Clean sheets covered her bruised body, and for the first time in months, she felt safe. Then she saw him, the man from the alley, sitting quietly in a chair beside her bed. His dark suit was neatly pressed, though his eyes looked tired, as if he hadn't slept. "You're awake," he said gently, standing up. "You're safe here." Her voice trembled. "Where am I?" "In one of my hospitals," he replied simply. "You needed care. I made sure you got it." She stared at him, confused. "Your hospital?" Daniel gave a small, almost embarrassed smile. "Yes, I own it, and a few others." Mia's eyes widened. She tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "Why would someone like you help someone like me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to the window, rain still streaking the glass. "Because I've seen what it's like to be helpless," he said finally. "When I was a boy, my mother went through something similar. No one helped her. I promised myself that if I ever had the power to stop it, I would." His words sank deep into her heart. Tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Over the next few days, Daniel visited often. He brought her warm food, books, and quiet company. She learned bits and pieces about him, how he was always traveling for work, how he preferred anonymity, how he never answered questions about his wealth. To her, he seemed like a man haunted by something, always looking for redemption in the faces he saved. But outside those hospital walls, Rick was furious. He had spent 2 days searching for Mia, only to find her gone. When he finally learned where she was, he stormed into the hospital, shouting her name. Security rushed to stop him, but he pushed past them, until he ran into Daniel. The atmosphere changed instantly. Daniel didn't shout, he didn't threaten, he simply looked at Rick with calm, cold authority. "You've caused enough damage," he said, holding out a folder of documents. "What's this supposed to be?" Rick spat. "Evidence," Daniel replied, "of every bruise, every witness, every hospital visit. It's already with the police. You won't be touching her again." Rick's face went pale. He looked around, realizing too late who he was dealing with. "You think you can buy her freedom?" Rick sneered weakly. "I don't need to buy it," Daniel said firmly. "I already gave it to her." As security escorted Rick out, Mia watched from the doorway, trembling, not from fear, but from relief. Daniel turned to her, his expression softening. "It's over," he said. For the first time in years, Mia believed it might be true. Weeks passed, and for Mia, time finally began to move without fear. The bruises on her body faded, but the scars inside took longer to heal. Each day, Daniel visited, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with breakfast, and sometimes just to sit quietly beside her while she read. He never asked for gratitude or attention, he simply made sure she felt human again. When her baby arrived, a healthy boy with bright eyes, Daniel was the first person she saw standing outside the delivery room. He wasn't smiling broadly like most men would, instead, his expression carried quiet awe, as though witnessing something sacred. He handed her a small teddy bear and said softly, "You both deserve a new beginning." Mia named her son Noah, symbolizing peace after the storm. The hospital staff adored them, treating her not like a charity case but like family. She could tell Daniel had made sure of that. One morning, as sunlight spilled across the white sheets, she looked up at him and said, "You've done too much already. I can't repay you." Daniel leaned on the window ledge, watching the world outside. "You don't have to repay kindness," he replied. "You just have to pass it on when someone else needs it." His words sank deep. For the first time, she smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. Days turned into months. Mia regained her strength and found a small spark of confidence she thought she had lost forever. Then one afternoon, Daniel came to visit carrying an envelope. Inside were keys and official papers. "What's this?" she asked, puzzled. "A new home," he said. "And a trust fund for you and Noah. It'll cover everything for a while, until you're ready to work again." Her eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, I can't accept this. It's too much." He smiled gently. "You already accepted it the day you chose to live. Money means nothing if it can't change a life." She reached out and took his hand, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this for me?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "Because once, someone saved me the same way. And I never got to thank her." Their eyes met, and for a long moment, neither spoke. There was no romance in that silence, only respect, gratitude, and a strange kind of peace. When Mia finally left the hospital, Daniel drove her to the little white house he'd bought. It sat at the edge of a quiet town, surrounded by blooming cherry trees. "It's beautiful," she whispered, holding Noah close. Daniel looked at her, pride shining in his eyes. "So are you. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise." He didn't stay long. After helping her settle in, he stepped back toward his car. "Goodbye, Mia," he said softly. "Will I see you again?" she asked. "Maybe," he replied, smiling faintly. "But you won't need me anymore." As his car disappeared down the road, Mia stood on the porch, her baby in her arms, feeling the breeze on her face. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. And somewhere in the city skyline, Daniel looked up at the stars, knowing his greatest investment wasn't in business, but in saving a soul that refused to stay broken.